On this episode of Air Capital Hot Rod Garage, hopefully we're going to do our final test fit on the LS engine. Alright, like I said, we're going to put this LS engine back in the Chevelle. I've had a little bit of work to do here. I got a different oil pan. I have the F-body oil pan on here right now. It's not the final stages. I'm still waiting on the oil pickup tube. So it's going to have to come back out anyway. But I want to test fit it, make sure that that oil pan is going to work, and then we can kind of start finalizing some stuff. I also cut the frame, notched the frame out where the air conditioning compressor goes. But yesterday when I was test fitting everything, after I cut the frame or cross member, it looked like maybe I didn't even have to. So I'm going to check that out, see what I need to do, and either box that in or weld the pieces that I cut out back in, one way or the other. I'm going to fix that cross member back up. Test fitted the transmission. With this oil pan, the transmission and engine together aren't going to go in together. So I got that test fitted, started working on the cross member. I'm going to have to flip that around and flip the bracket that the engine actually, or the transmission actually bolts to the other side, and re-weld that. So we're getting pretty close on getting this in here. As long as this oil pan fits and everything, we'll be real close, just waiting on that pickup tube, and we'll be ready to install for the last time. Also, just got word that my headers will be here in just a couple days. So we'll be working on that here pretty soon, and just really getting the last final pieces of parts to make this happen. So I'm on Christmas break now, so got some time to work on this a little bit. I have several days off. So if I get really lucky, by the end of the New Year's weekend, I might have this thing running. We don't know. We'll see how far we get. So like I said, right here is where I cut out the cross member for the air conditioning compressor, but I don't know if I need that clearance or not. So I'm going to throw the bottom part of the motor mount back in, and then we'll toss the engine in. Alright guys, catch up to speed a little bit. Engine's back in. You know what? This sucker goes in a lot easier without a transmission. With the transmission, it took me about 2 hours of wiggling around and fighting it and everything by myself. Without the transmission, it took about 5 minutes. So, that's great. So, again, down there is where I cut out the frame. And as you can see down there, can't really see. Let's see if we get some light there. So that compressor is super close to that. So I think I am going to notch that out just a little bit. I have the engine pulled forward as far as I can, because there's that bolt down there. Right down there, that the bracket's just about hitting. You push this back, this is going to hit. You push it back, and we're not going to have any firewall clearance. You push it back, and you just make all of the transmission with that 4L80E just that much tighter. So we're going to pull it forward as far as you can, which still isn't that far forward. So next I'm going to check how the steering's doing to oil pan clearance. So check that out. I'll probably go ahead and pull the AC compressor because I know what I need to do there. So that's I think I just have maybe those 2 bolts right here and here on there holding that on for right now. So pull that real quick, just check out the steering. Okay, we're underneath the front of the car here, and as you can see right there, our tie rod, maybe you can see it, where center link is just barely hitting the pan. So I think I can do a little bit of grinding there just to give us a little bit more clearance. That knuckle there, where the tie rod attaches to the center link, it didn't hang up on this air conditioning bracket there. And then over on this side, going the other direction, that tie rod did hit the oil pan just a little bit. I think a little bit of clear grinding on that just to clean it up. It's not going to be much. Yeah, so it's fitting. Also, the oil pan to cross member clearance is pretty tight, but it fits too. Again, with the engine pulled all the way forward even. So these UMI engine stands, they are designed for this oil pan. So we'll keep working. All right, we'll catch up to speed a little bit. Got the engine out, got the oil pan taken off. And just to kind of show you what we're dealing with here. So right in here is kind of where that tie rod end was hitting. And then over on this side, kind of right in here, there's this little nub here. So you can see how it's polished, and right there by my finger is a little bit polished. So we're just going to clean that up. You know, this aluminum, it's pretty thick on this, so I don't need a whole lot of clearance. So I'm just going to lightly clean it up. Obviously don't want to go through the oil pan, poke a hole in it or anything. So that's what we're going to do. And you know, when this is installed, obviously this is upside down. My brake line runs right in front of this, and then you got the cross member here. You know, there might be a little bit of contact with the brake line, but it's not really a significant deal. So there you go. Seems to fit, seems to work. Air conditioning compressor seems to work. I'm going to notch out that frame just a bit to give us a little bit more clearance, but it's all coming together. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Got some clearancing to do. Really need that pickup tube, and then really I'd be ready to put the engine in after I do some welding on that cross member. So I think I'll get that welding done, and hopefully the pickup tube will show up tomorrow. Alright, we're going to get a little bit of welding done. So I modified the frame here a little bit by hammering that back in there. Got a couple little patch pieces that I'm going to weld in there. So ground it down, clean them up a little bit, cleaned up my patch pieces. And these patch pieces, they are the original frame there, so I'm just rolling those back in. Once I get these little pieces in, I might have to make a few little additional pieces to weld back in there. So we'll get started. Alright everybody, just to catch you up to speed, took a couple days off for Christmas, and day after Christmas, so we're back on it. So what we got here is we got the engine in, we got the transmission out. We're gonna put the transmission in. So gonna remove the dipstick, put it on a jack, slide it underneath the car, and hopefully raise it up. Easily bolt the transmission to the engine and be done. I don't know if it's going to go that smooth. Hopefully it does. I've test fitted it a couple times and everything. So as long as the engine is angled back far enough that I can get to the bolts and everything, I think it'll be pretty easy. But then again, I am wrestling with a 230 pound or so transmission. And of course you got to tilt it at an angle and everything, so it could be quite challenging, but then again it might be pretty easy, so we'll find out. I'm gonna try to film it, but you know, getting under the car and getting the angle and everything is very difficult, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Wish me luck. We got the transmission in. Let me tell you, it was a big pain in the butt to get in. Even though I had test fitted it with the other oil pan, with this oil pan and the way it had to be positioned, it was a really tight fit. I had to take out the old big hammer and make a little bit of clearance. I had to take a pry bar, make a little bit of clearance, and then I actually ordered some cooling line fittings for the transmission that are banjo bolt fittings to take up a little bit of space, or to make up a little bit of space, because it's such a tight fit in there. We did get it in there though. It's fitting good. I modified the cross member, the transmission cross member. I ended up cutting it in two places and made plates to bolt it together, because otherwise the transmission's so long that you couldn't get the cross member out with the transmission in there. So with it three-piece design now, you can take that whole thing out with the transmission in the vehicle. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this episode, but we got more work to do. But we got the engine in, got the transmission in. So now we just have a lot of those little bolt-ups, bolt-on type things. Got the headers, got the radiator, got to upgrade the fuel system, and then do the wiring. Wiring is, modified. I have to merge the engine wiring with the Chevelle wiring to make it all work. So if you want to see more of this car fired up and everything, make sure that you like and subscribe so you can stay connected and see this thing fire up.